Look at this feather.
Yeah, you have your feather. I don't know what's going on with those, but that's really kind of weird. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sean and Sax Show, the show of feathers. Saxony, as you guys probably know, owns a company called Veda Soul, and she makes earrings. And these purple ones are new.
This style of feather.
But the feathers are really long, and they have literally a life of and a mind of their own. Uh-huh. We were at dinner last night, and like one of them just was like moving and like standing up, and I'm like, these are either haunted feathers or the bird that they took them off of is still alive somehow. It's very interesting. So those were the interactive.
No,
feathers.
this wasn't at dinner. That happened when we were meeting with Matt. And
Oh,
it was
that's
like,
right. That's right.
It was.
Speaking of that,
getting heated with me. It was like, oh really?
Your feather was like calling BS. Speaking of that, we had a great date night last night.
Yes.
We had a fun date night that Sax planned. She came in the morning. I was in my office. Or no, you called me. I was in my office. I was in my office and you called me, I think.
No, I went down.
She said, tonight's day night, which we both obviously know. And she said, whatever you have planned, cancel it. I got it. And I was like,
Yes.
enough said. Enough said, dog.
Yep.
So we went up to Snowbird.
Mm-hmm.
Tell everybody.
We went up to Snowbird, and I got us a mountain-facing room, and I made pretty early dinner reservations for us. Normally we don't go so early, but I really wanted to see the leaves changing, and I wanted to go swimming.
Yeah, which is weird because like we never do that. You were all about it. Like you're like, we're gonna go swim. We're gonna go sit in the hot tub. We're gonna go swim. I'm like, do they have a magic pool or is there something I'm missing here? Because we're like we don't ever swim in hotel pools or normally. But you were like on it. You were like, hey, we're gonna swim. Bring your bathing suit. Don't forget your bathing suit. We're gonna swim. We're gonna swim. We're gonna swim. It was fun.
I didn't want you to have to go naked.
It was really fun. We found a little hot tub under the trees, hidden away from everybody and all the humans, and it was great.
Yeah.
Sat in the hot tub for an hour and listened to 90s hip hop and drank and had a good time.
Yep.
It was a great date.
I talked your ear off.
Yeah, it was great. So date night's good, guys. It's non-negotiable. Do it once a week. We do it every single week, no matter where we are. I want to say something to that really quick because there's a couple of comments that I got. I posted about this on Facebook already. And people are like, well, what do you do if you have kids? Like, we have tons of kids and whatever. Like, one of my favorite quotes is, it doesn't matter how many resources you have. It matters how resourceful you are. At the end of the day, we have 5 kids. We have hockey, and we have practices, and we have things, and we have everything going on. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of saying, well, when I have time, then I'll go do this. Or when we have time, we'll go do this. And people wonder why their relationships fall apart. They wonder why the love, quote unquote, dissipates. Why you become roommates versus lovers is you stop investing. You stop making it a priority. Yeah, you got kids, find a babysitter. You don't have any money? Great. What's the solution here? Your neighbor doesn't have any money either? Fantastic. They got kids, you got kids. Okay, we'll take Wednesday night and watch all the Hooligans. You take Thursday night and watch all the Hooligans. Enough said, right? It's about creating solutions for what you want. And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out if you quit investing in your relationship, it's going to fucking die.
Yeah.
If you're not dating each other and proactively going after each other and flirting with each other and all that shit, like, we were sitting in the hot tub like we were teenagers, like making out and having a good time and talking and then making out some more, and it was good. It was great.
It was really fun. And you really don't have to have a lot of money. Because some of our dates are...
We go sit next to a river. Like,
Yeah.
literally go, I got a blanket and we sit next to a lake and we talk. We go get gas station freaking beers, like 2
That was
40s.
a really fun date.
Yeah, and a like some gas station sushi, and we sat next to the lake for hours and talked.
Yeah.
You guys can make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and literally go to the park and sit on a blanket in the park. Truth be told, let's talk about this for 2
Probably
seconds.
a better date than like going to a movie.
I was literally just going to say that. Not even the movie, but we get into, and this is more for my friends who are in a different status, meaning you're making a lot of money, you're driving the nice car, you've got the watches, you can buy the wine, you can go out and get big fancy steaks. A lot of times we miss the simplicity. I had a coaching client, the guy who was making millions and millions and millions of dollars, and his relationship was falling apart. And I told him, I said, like, take your wife on a picnic. Like, go make a picnic. Mm-hmm. Make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Get a literal picnic basket. Get a cheap bottle of wine, not the bougie, Camus or whatever. Mm-hmm. Not that Camus is the highest end, but that's one of my favorites.
That's your
I said,
favorite.
make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, get some cheap ass wine, and go literally sit next to a lake or a river. And he ended up telling me it was one of the best dates they'd had in years.
Yeah.
And this is a dude who can afford any steak in any steakhouse. And a lot of times we miss that. We miss the simplicity, right? It's not about, I can't go stay the night because we have kids. It's fine. 3 or 4 hours of just exclusive time with you and your partner, even when like we'll just go dick around and go bowling or just flirting or one of my favorite dates is us just going to the mall. I've shared this 1,000 times. We'll go to dinner and then we just walk around because we're is immature the right word? We're youthful.
We're not immature.
We're youthful.
Yeah.
We love being kids. We love the little kid in us. We love being the little kid. Mm-hmm. And when Sax and I are going to the mall, we'll literally just go from store to store and we're trying on sunglasses and outfits and things and flirty, and we're going in the dressing room and I'm grabbing her boobs, and it's just a great experience. It's just fun. It's flirty. That's one of my favorite dates. Mm-hmm. Is us walking around the mall. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
it just can't be negotiable, guys. Like if you want your relationships to last, you have to invest in them. If you want your 401k and your portfolio to grow, you're going to invest in it, aren't you? Like it's the same thing. If you want your relationship to grow, you have to continually invest in it. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I like connection dates anyways. I feel like I prefer the more out in nature, just hanging out ones anyways.
Going
or
up
in
the canyon.
Or being in the bathtub, things like that.
Well, it's not really out in nature, but
no, I was going more for
plants.
simplicity.
We have plants. That's kind of nature. Plants next to the bathtub. We could get a tree. Plant a tree next to the bathtub. That's a little more nature-ish. Yeah, that's
maybe the
good.
hot tub out in the backyard.
Yeah, we have our hot tub. We sit outside in the backyard. That's nature. Mm-hmm. Anywho, so prior to our date yesterday, guys, this is we got a really fun conversation for today. Prior to our date, we went and saw our coach, our mentor, our coach, our relationship coach, whatever you want to call him, Matt. We've shared his book. He's a phenomenal guy, local here in Utah. Really, really, really good guy. Like I am very picky with who I work with. I'm very picky with who I follow. And Matt is a really, really, really good guy. We hit it off with him since day one. Mm-hmm. Sax and I go see him regularly, individually plus together. So yesterday was I went and hung out with him for about 45 minutes myself, and then Sax came over. So we had an hour session with him, and one of the things that we talked about is something that we've been adding to our relationship. I don't want to say like struggling with, but something that we're seeing in our dynamic that we need. And so we're working with Matt on this and understanding, when Sax and I go into, I'm just going to call it our chaos, war. Call it whatever. I know, but I want to share language that we're all in agreement on, right? Like conflict, whether we're arguing, disagreeing, fighting. Like I don't like fighting because we don't fight, but you guys know what I'm talking about. When you're disconnected, whatever you guys want to call this, call it arguing, call it fighting, call it whatever. When we go there, Sax and I are very vicious. We're very ruthless there. When our feelings get hurt, we don't have kind of that clear path out. And so sometimes it's just a couple of minutes, whatever, we brush it off, and then other times it's full-blown nuclear holocaust that might last hours or even days.
You're like exaggerating big time. Nuclear holocaust, no.
Well, I mean,
when you're hijacked, when you're triggered for whatever,
call it whatever you want. When you get pissed off at each other, okay? Or you're hurt, or you're sad, or you're angry, any of these emotions, this is the reality, is when you're disconnected from your lover. I'm not talking about the make-out time in the hot tub when you're super connected and you're lovey and you're touching, you're feeling. It's I said something that pissed you off. You said something that pissed me off. I did something that hurt you. You did something that hurt me. Mm-hmm. And we go into that space. And again, sometimes it's really light and it's easy. And we're bing, bing, in and out, good to go. And we walk it off, right? But there are other times that it gets really, really heavy. And we're not the best there. We're not good there, right? And I don't have any problems talking about that. If anybody's like, oh, we're fucking professionals, be like, okay, great. Like, tell us your secrets, right? Because even Matt, our our coach is like, yeah, we get into it, and we get into it, like we have to work on things. And so one of the things that that I have been really wanting for us to do and to learn is kind of having a protocol when we go there. Because
use the analogy used with the airplane. I think that's a great way to look at it.
What do you mean? Yeah. So if you're flying an airplane or flying a helicopter, right? I started taking my helicopter's license and pilot's license. There's a procedure book, right? Like when you're starting up, when you're walking through the plane, getting the plane ready to fly, you literally have a step-by-step procedures. You're checking this, you're checking this, you're checking this, and it's not like let's just wing it and just look at the plane and see if it's good, but you have step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And it's the same every single time. It has to be, right? But also, like if a plane's engine goes out or something happens, they literally pull out a manual and it's a step-by-step procedure. If this happens, do this, this, and this. If this works, you're done. If it doesn't work, go to step 7, go to step 11. And so it's very much a procedural manual that you follow, right? And it has to be that way, because if you're on an airplane and all of a sudden it goes into chaos and you lose the engines or whatever, think about that for 2 seconds.
It's the same thing as being your mind being hijacked, is that all of a sudden life or death is happening on an airplane.
Well, it's true.
You have to have this protocol,
right,
so that way you don't have to emotionally try and find your way through it in the middle of oh my gosh.
Right. Imagine being a pilot and an engine goes out and you just start flipping fucking switches. And now you're dumping the shitter. You're dumping all your fuel. Landing gear goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up. I mean, if you're in chaos or whatever, you're screwed. And you could hit every single button and not resolve the problem, right? And so I've seen this in our dynamic. And I've known this, and Sax and I have talked about this, but truth be told, we're not good at it yet. And we're trying to figure out ways for us to get out of the chaos. And typically the way it'll work is it'll go, in my opinion, it goes longer than it needs to go because we haven't figured this part of the game out yet. And so it'll either be Sax realizes she said or did some dumb shit, and it might take her a little bit longer than the average because that's just how Sax is. And she'll be like, okay, fine, come over here, let me grab your butt or whatever. Or, I'll do the same thing. But we don't have a procedure. We don't have a protocol. And so as we're talking to Matt, I don't feel like we've been good at resolving it. We just kind of get tired of it, I think. We get tired of being in that space. And again, this is rare. This isn't like our marriage sucks and we're at war, but we have them and they're real, right? And we've been really good at getting ourselves out of funks. Way better than we used to be, way better than we've ever been in our life.
Well, and I want to interject here too, is that, and not that I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything, but when you're our life is all about more and becoming better and becoming bigger and greater and deeper hearted, and that's the theme of our life.
Right.
So with us going to Matt, that's we have a good foundation, we have a good solid love, a good solid marriage, but we want to be better tomorrow than we were today, and we're obsessed with that. We're obsessed with that with our bodies, with our businesses, with our friendships, with everything,
100%.
right? And so this whole thing, I think a lot of people see having a coach or even seeing a therapist or whatever it is as problem based.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not. It's for us, it's okay, this is where we can see we have an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
So we're okay, we go in. This is where we're not we don't know how to use that muscle well enough. Get a professional involved or get someone who you trust involved. So then, it's we want to be able to navigate that so much better.
Right.
But I want to really encourage people to not always look at these type of things as problem based.
Right.
They could just be growth based. You just
we're proactive.
Listen,
we're proactively doing this, guys. We're not. Our marriage is great. It's as good as it's ever
been. But I want them to look at that. For,
Sure.
if you guys are oh, that's want more for yourself before there's a problem.
Yeah, I don't think we need to sell anybody here on having coaches, having mentors, following people. I've said this 1,000 times.
Whoa.
And if you've known me at all, I've said that the very best leaders have mastered the art of following. Every single person listening to this should have a relationship coach, relationship mentor, physical coach, fitness coach.
You're meeting with your fitness coach
business
after this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to put that in there because I want people to not be ashamed to want to bring in people to help them navigate
100%. You
to
should
be better.
actively doing
like
that.
whatever.
Makes you better. Sharpens the sword.
Yes.
And Matt's our guy. So
Carry
Matt's
on.
one of the guys that we found has helped us. And yesterday when we went in, it's cool because it's date night and we like going and seeing him. We want to. I want to. I enjoy it because
I love seeing him.
He always opens me up and always helps me see things. And I've been able to check my ego in a major way where like he calls me on stuff, but not in like this negative ways. He just helps me see things differently. He helps both of us see things that we didn't see. And so we went in yesterday with the intention of trying to figure out a protocol. And that was like what we talked about is like, Matt, help us figure out a protocol because when we go into this space, if we go into like the deep end of the pool, we lose all sense of reason. We lose a lot of these things, and we both know it.
Of course.
We're high strung. We're high energy. We're ruthless, vicious. We're scared. We're frustrated. We're also very caring and loving, but we haven't figured this part of the game out yet. And so as we were talking about it, we saw and see and have started the process of building a literal protocol. So the same way if you're flying an airplane and the engine 1 goes out, you literally turn to the engine 1 page, do this, do this, do this. If that doesn't happen, go here. And so we started building out a literal protocol where we start with a word. And this is kind of the rough draft of ours. I'm just going to give you guys our rough draft. We haven't finalized it. We're going to go back with Matt and work through it because one of the cool parts is like there's certain things that Matt will see where he's like, maybe this will work or this wouldn't work, or there might be something better to try, right? But our rough draft was as follows. When we hit a certain point, either of us, we have a word that we say. And we had to make it simple. Sax was trying to make it like some paragraph, like purple pineapples, dancing shoes. I'm like, dude,
like
I don't even remember my kids' names half the time. Like, we have to keep this really freaking simple. And so we have this word, and what we've both come to the agreement on is when this word shows up, we both unanimously agree that this is what we're going to go do. We have to disconnect. So for Sax and I, it's disconnecting. Meaning,
and then but it's active disconnection.
Let me finish my sentence, sweetheart.
Well, I'm just
so
excited.
I'm sure you're excited. Maybe you should just listen for 2 seconds. So we have this word, and then there's a proactive action. And we realize that as we keep talking, like Sax and I are what we call over-unders, right? We figured out that we're over-under. So over means like I'm over, Sax is under, meaning when we get into conflict, I like go above and beyond to communicate, talk, solve the problem.
That's not what over means.
Yes, it is.
No, it means you get more angry, you get more verbal, you get more aggressive.
That's what I just said. I'm trying to
solving the problem is not part of. It's a trigger. When you're triggered, you go over, which is when people want to like.
What are you talking about?
Fight or flight. Over is when you fight. Flight or freeze is an under. Doesn't mean you're trying to solve a problem. Because sometimes there's no solving of problems from either of us. That's why there's a protocol.
Okay, so can I finish now what I was saying?
Sure.
The over is I get into the talking, solving that I have to solve the problem right now, but I'm not solving the problem because I'm in this state. See what happens when you actually can finish a sentence? Sax goes under, meaning she runs away. Am I wrong in this? Do we need to bring Matt in?
Maybe.
Okay, so you shut down, correct?
Right.
And
there's usually shutting down, sadness.
Right.
Under people would do that.
You kind of run away, and I over the top am trying to like bring everything together, and it causes massive chaos between these two things. Yes or no, Sax? Should we call Matt? Should I FaceTime Matt right now and be like, hey, bud, we're
talking about, but I just want to be very clear so people understand, though, is like being an over is wanting to fight. It's
correct.
It's not looking for solutions. It's not like the under.
But in my mind, I'm trying to create the solution.
Because not necessarily. Sometimes it's just that you want to fight.
Oh, boy.
Because the under people are still trying to find a solution then by removing themselves from it or not talking, not trying to aggravate the situation. So I guess if we want to look at it like we're looking for solutions in the middle of chaos, but I don't think that that's what's happening.
Correct. I'm agreeing with you. The moral of the story is when we go into the chaos, into this insanity, you do one thing and I do the other.
Yes.
Both of us thinks somehow, some way, we're doing the thing that we should be doing or that will solve the problem, but it doesn't. It actually causes more chaos because I hate what you do and you hate what I do.
Correct.
Dislike.
Correct.
Better word, right?
Correct.
That's the point that I'm getting at. Is in my mind, I'm trying to, I get aggressive, I talk, I'm trying to solve this problem. You're going the opposite way, somehow thinking this might just go away or this won't be the thing or whatever. And pisses both of us off.
Yeah.
And we accomplish nothing there. But in our own minds, this is where we go. This is what we do. Somehow we've programmed ourselves to believe that this is either going to be the solution, going to be part of the solution, or our fallback to protect ourselves. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that, dear?
A long time ago, we read a book
We really
called
should FaceTime Matt right now and be like,
The
hey,
Brain on Love.
we're in it, man.
We read a book called The Brain on Love. And there's like all these different ways of looking at it. It's really good to know yourself, know your attachment styles. Therefore, you can be aware of it and know your partner's attachment styles, and you can work on becoming a more secure attachment, having a more secure attachment as a couple, right? And so another way of looking at this is the Brain on Love is I'm more of an island, Sean's more of a wave, right?
Yeah.
Which also means I'm more of like an avoidant attachment style. He's more of an anxious. And there's also
It's a great
anxious avoidant, like which are just all of the things.
Sax is
And
all of them.
And I think that if you get pushed probably into it enough, you probably become anxious avoidant because you're trying to like whatever. But it's good to know that because it has a lot to do with just the way you grew up and like the way that you learn to deal with life. Like, and not that all of these things are we're able to change, but you have to have an awareness to it.
Yeah.
And there's no shame in being like, oh, well, I would rather just check out because I don't want to deal with the problem.
Right.
Because you can go and you can source probably in your childhood and see why that became your method of coping with whatever it is, right? And that's really been powerful for us as a couple because I get to understand, like Matt calls it, you know, if you were raised fighting bears in your family.
We talked about this yesterday.
Right. And I think it's a great analogy. It's like Sean, you know, Sean was raised fighting bears. Like, it doesn't shock him when somebody wants to fight like a bear with him. He's like, okay. But my family is really avoidant, and they like will avoid conflict to the point where like it's just as equally unhealthy, right? And I'm not trying to bash our families fighting me. I'm just being really honest, right? And so, but when you have a person that's used to like having no conflict and you just avoid everything, and then all of a sudden there's a bear in the room, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a fucking bear in here fighting me, you know? And so just to have that awareness, and we've been together long enough to where like we know this.
We know the dance.
But it's like, how do we then learn to not fight bears and not retreat?
Right.
Which is literally what we do. And that's the protocol we're getting to is like, okay, there's a bear in the room, but there's also not a door. So how do we get the bear to not attack? And I guess there is a door if there's a bear, because that wouldn't work. Moral of the story is the door is locked and the bear's hibernating. So we need to like,
people are like, what
manage
the fuck
this.
are we talking about right now? We went from
I'm
airplanes
talking to
bears.
kindergartners right now.
So
We're done.
no,
That's
we're
all
not.
we've got.
So we're learning this dance, and we know that we're over under. Okay, you have an idea, I have an idea. We know what it is, right? And the book that Sax is referencing is actually really good. The wave and the island, the whole thing. The point of this, and what I wanted to get out is like having the protocol. Number one, sounds really, really simple, but for people like us, it's also really difficult because neither of us likes to follow the rules. Okay? Neither of us is a rule. We both are like adamantly we very much like to break the rules. We kind of say screw your rules, whether it's we want to be defiant, whether we are defiant, whether we're just wanting to piss people off. Neither of us likes to follow the rules. But this is like,
I don't think that's my motive ever.
What?
To just try and piss people off?
No, I don't think you want to. I do. Sometimes I do. But neither of us follows the rules. And so one of the things that's really important about this conversation for us, and I think there's probably a lot of people that are like us listening to this, which are high quote unquote alpha red personalities running fast, building businesses, whether it's both of you or one of you, whatever, we probably have a lot more in common with a lot of people in this dynamic than what we think, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is a really cool thing, because as we're seeing this, the number one issue, the number one problem with this entire thing, right, is the actual first step of the protocol. This is, in my opinion, the biggest thing, because what I envision is me and Sax are flying the plane, right? And the engine goes out, and I'm like, give me the manual. And she's like, no, I want coffee. And you just get into this war, and you're not solving the actual problem at hand, because neither of us wants to really help each other because we're hurt or we're pissed off. And so we're going to kind of be defiant. And so one of the things that Matt was showing us is like, and really focusing on yesterday, which is why we didn't get really past this first step of the protocol, because for us to have a protocol, it's going to be really challenging to even start it, let alone see it through. I think once we get it down and we can become accustomed to this and used to this and in agreeance to this, the rest of the protocol will be easy. But going back to the word, right? The literal actual procedure of this is like, when the word comes, I say it, you say it. And again, this is if we're angry, if we're sad, if we're frustrated, this is on our own conscious. Like, we have to make that choice. I can't put her in that box. She can't put me in that box. But we have to have a level of trust and confidence in our relationship that I think is higher than what we've ever had in any dynamic, because you can't just throw that thing out there just because you don't feel like it, right? Like, this is a really important, sacred part of our dynamic of honoring and respecting the other person. And that's the point. One of the points I really wanted to make is truly knowing that, like, you're with somebody that you want to be with. You're with somebody you're wanting to grow with. You're with somebody that you love and that you respect, and you are in that dynamic enough to be able to check your own ego, check your own pride when you go into this space. So case in point, like, if we're in the middle of this and Sax throws out our word, the first thing I want to do is go over and no, you can't say that right now. We're not done talking. We can't do that right now, right? And that's literally breaking the rules. That's breaking the procedure and the protocol, which is, as we were talking about this and I'm thinking about this, I'm like, fuck, this is not going to be easy, because if she pulls out the card and pulls out the word, we have a set procedure. We both disconnect, and we both have committed to go meditate for, was it 15 minutes or 10 minutes? 15 minutes. But it's not just, fuck you, I'm going to go to one side of the house and you're going to go to the other. We both commit to doing the same action. So it's not, well, I'm just going to get on my phone and you can go handle your shit and then come back when you're ready. Like, this is part of the interesting thing of this dynamic, is we're both committing to going and doing something with specific intention.
And I want to say too, is the reason we decided on an active separation for that amount of time, listening to like an Om meditation,
right,
is because if we just separate and we sit there and we let our monkey mind drive for 15 more minutes, it's not going to be better.
Nope. You're going to think of all the things to say as soon as you come back.
This is why anybody who gets upset and they stay in their mind and not get to their heart, it's not going to get better.
Right.
Because you can't bring logic when you have that, when you're 100%. Triggered. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's like I've never seen it. I've never seen it happen. Right.
And Sax and I are both very, very, very energetic. We're both very emotional. We're in it. We're in it. And when we're in that space, like,
we're both sensitive. We're both passionate. It comes from a good place too, for sure.
Yeah. It's also what makes us, the great dynamic that we are, and the great leaders that we are, and the great couple that we are, and why we have so much connection and depth is because of this. But when you go into that, monkey mind, that whole thing, it's also, we're fucking vicious. It's just how we are. So what's really cool about this procedure and protocol is understanding that the very first thing that we have to do is probably the hardest thing that we have to do.
We get to do it.
We get to do, yes. Thanks, Craig. We get to do this, and it's literally disconnecting and then going and creating an intentional action. And I think what as I was thinking about it last night and through today, like, the idea of this, I want to prove my point. I want to make sure you know my point. I want to make sure you know that I'm pissed off, I'm hurt, what you said, what you did was stupid, whatever. Yeah, you can roll your eyes, but you do
I
the
went
same.
cross-eyed.
You do the exact same fucking thing. That's
know.
your exact intention with me. You want to make sure that I know.
Of course, that's
the whole
how
thing.
we all are.
We all do that,
I
right?
know.
But if you really stop and think about this, and you really like put this in your pipe and smoke it and understand, like, you have to become not just a willing participant in the dynamic of the relationship, but a willing participant in the change, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a really difficult thing. What I have found in this relationship is we are so heightened, we are so deep that, like, knowing that we're not going anywhere, knowing that we're in this, right? I know a lot of couples struggle with even that dynamic. Like, are we really in this? Like, are we, even you've been married for 6, 7, 8 years, like, you still feel like you're kind of sitting on the fence. I feel like if you both decide to go all in, and you're both all in, and you're like, we're not going anywhere. That might sound really elementary to some people, but believe it or not, there's more people that struggle with that than probably very many other things, like being all in, right? Which is why we're doing what we're doing and talking about what we're talking about and getting ready to launch, this whole relationship experience. But being in that place, like, I visioned this last night, and we talked about this when we were sitting in the hot tub, like, me hearing her say this word, me wanting to throw the darts and fire off and make sure that I spike the ball in the end zone. You know what I'm talking about. You know where I'm at before you walk off into your meditation land. Knowing that like, we're both consciously going into this space to be able to diffuse, calm down, get out of the monkey mind, I feel like is such a powerful, conscious decision, but a really difficult one, because as we've proven, we both want to prove to ourselves in this relationship, we both want to prove our point. We both want to be heard. We both want to be validated. We both want to be seen, right? And it's a really vulnerable place, and it's a really, I don't want to say scary, but it's a vulnerable place to walk away from a conversation or choose that reality of not needing to prove your point, of not needing to kind of spike the ball in the end zone, which I know is what most men do. We want you to know, like, we're going to it's what we're good at, right? And as I'm thinking about this, it's like,
I don't think it's men. I think it's more of the higher of the
men and women,
the ones that go high, though. I feel like that's more of the like
right.
spike the ball, because women, I see passive men and very aggressive women, so I think it's just the ones that go over are more likely to like jab,
right? Yeah, and that's a good point. It's throwing the jabs. We all know what that means. We all do it.
That's why it's called fight,
right?
Because it's literally.
Right. But in thinking about this procedure and this protocol, it's one of those things that, like, it intimidates me. It kind of scares me in a way. But I also realize, too, that if I can become a guy who can check his ego and move past that ego to truly resolution, to truly, like, moving forward, most of the shit that we fight about is not really what we're mad about. We both know
Never.
that. Most of the stuff that we war about, most of the things that come up for us really has nothing to do with what's at hand. And Sax and I will both openly admit that we have a ton of quote-unquote past and trauma and baggage that, you could read about in all of these books.
Being a human being.
Exactly. We're not. I'm not too proud to say it. We're both willing to say that and willing to acknowledge it, which is why I think people resonate with us. Is like, we're not pretending that we have everything figured out. We don't.
That's what I loved, honestly.
Sorry, but like talking to Matt, because this is what he does, and then talking to Jordan Peterson, and he's like, because we've both had like private conversations about this, and they're like, this is normal.
Yeah.
Sorry, if people say this is not, they're in it. They're either not addressing it and they're just avoiding it because they're both avoidance. So like, we're just not going to talk about it, or they're in denial, or they're just not living deep enough to where they're going to like sedate it out.
And that's something that is really important. As we were talking to Jordan, he talks about that. He's like, hey man, like me and Tammy, like it took us a long time to figure this out. Like we went to war and we had these moments and times and we still have these things, and like the goal is to short it out. But I think that's a really, really, really good point, is like knowing that you want to go there, you want to be there, you want a deep relationship. I think a lot of people are fine being very superficial. I think a lot of people are living a very superficial reality, very superficial life, very superficial connection. And it's kind of like, I'm fine here. I don't think people are really okay there and want to stay there, but they're not willing to move into something deeper, because then I would have to open up the doors. Then I would have to address my shit. Then I would have to get vulnerable, and I don't really want to do that.
Or they have a very codependent dynamic, just fairly common.
Sure.
Because, I mean, we've been in those relationships. Yeah. We know what that looks like. Yeah. And so if you have someone who, if you're just signing off on each other's bullshit, then you're never going to, like, you're not going to grow in anything. You're just going to kind of stay in that. And so this protocol, we even named it, it's a healing protocol.
Yeah.
Because the whole mission behind it is not to have necessarily conflict resolution.
Right.
Because we already have conflict resolution.
Right.
Or we would be literally being conflict all of our marriage, right? The point is we have a way of resolving it. It's not about the conflict resolution. It's about the fact that we're like, okay, we want to learn why we have conflict, why we're not managing it to the best of our abilities, because we are okay to say that. And so the whole idea is healing with each other, because you can be so dang quote unquote healed. And you can do all the ayahuasca and you can do all of the things, but then go and get married in your 30s and 40s and just tell me that you've got it all, all those like buttoned up, tightened up. It's not a thing, but it's not also a bad thing. Like Sierra just posted about this because Sierra, I'm gonna shout out. She posted she recently got married, and she's like, you don't really have to be healed in order to have a healthy relationship, or to date or to marry or whatever. And I completely agree with that, because there's certain things, certain exercises you'll never get to experience until you're in a relationship,
right? And
you're put up against this very, very vulnerable spot where you may have owies and wounds from that you don't even know you have. Yep. All of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh. And so I just know that a lot of people, they give up on their relationships because it's too painful, or they think that it should be like Disney, or they look at it like, oh, all the memes on the internet, they're telling me that this is toxic or this is this. And it's like, I feel like that's doing us such a disservice, because we give up before we make the breakthroughs, right? It's like, there's a term like making it through it's like the breaker, or what do they call that when the wave breaks? Once you make it past that, all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, there's this beautiful ocean. But those waves are kicking your butt. Right. But until you can get past that.
Right.
And so the healing protocol, it's not that like we're broken. It's just like, hey, I have these little wounds that I've realized I have, and I want to have better trust in my marriage to where we can like baby step this in, and we can have a more secure attachment that we maybe have never experienced before in our lives.
Well, and then in this healing protocol, which Matt introduced that thought process, it changes obviously the dynamic when you're thinking about that. Mm-hmm. But that's what this is providing for us, is that ability to rewrite those stories. Because as we were talking to him yesterday, it was interesting because like for probably 20 minutes or so, I felt like we were talking about very superficial things. And I said to him, I'm like, I don't think this is really what is going to solve or cure or heal anything with us. I think what we're dealing with or what we're experiencing is significantly deeper and significantly bigger. So it's like we can play over here in fairy tale land and little
calls it
thing.
Smoke. That's
smoke. We want to get straight to the fire. And this procedure and protocol is we have, again, are just getting ours started, but I'm excited because it's like I've visioned myself in that space, and I know what that space looks like and feels like, and me being able to rewrite that narrative and that over under, you know what I mean? We'll work on the dynamic and the definition of that. I'll have Matt tell you what it is later, but whatever. The over under reality, like knowing that you can actually rewrite that and actually, I don't want to say change that, but continue to evolve that reality to where it's not really even in existence. Like as soon as you start to go there, you hit it, you see it.
That's
boom.
the secure attachment.
Right. And then and trust that your partner's going here, I'm going here, and you're really going there for the healing. You're going there for the change. This isn't just something that we're doing because we have issues and problems and we got to like call it. The goal is to literally heal through this. And that was one of the things that Jordan was talking about with me when we were chatting in the back, because somebody had mentioned to him that I wanted to burn the whole thing down and not do the event. And he's like, well, tell me about that. I'm like, well, it's just like everything else. I'm like, the energy, I get overwhelmed and I'm just like, why am I even doing this? Fuck this, whatever kind of a deal. And he kind of chuckled and he's like, I get that. And, he said the same thing we were saying, which is the goal is to just shorten all that up. And that's really the goal of this is what would it look like if you could have a protocol that took you into a healing space where instead of something being a 1 or 2 or 3 day or a week long nagging thing, feeling like we're not online together, we're offline, yeah, we're still here, we're cohabitating, but we're not in the game together. What would it look like if you could shorten that down to 30 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes, right? And I feel like this protocol is going to be wildly challenging for us, but also wildly rewarding in the sense that it's like anything else, like a muscle. You work it, it gets stronger, stronger, stronger. But I want to get to a place in our relationship where instead of us having those day-long, 2-day-long, 3-day-long disconnects, and not that we're fighting the entire time or arguing the entire time, but we just know that energy, when that energy's off, when that energy is someplace else, it doesn't serve either of us. We don't grow. We're not passionate. We're not all in, like in that space. It's almost like you're just playing, very superficially.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this protocol, number one, it's going to take a while for us to figure it out, to really like get good at it. But number two, I feel like that's the end game. Like that's really what we want to be doing is we want to be online as much as we can. We want to be together and unified as much as we can. And I know there's a lot of people that struggle with that. I've struggled with that most of my life. I mean, there's shit, really, years and years and years ago, I would be angry and frustrated and pissed off for weeks at a time, disconnected for weeks at a time. That's just, that's insane. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, and just right there, like, take note of how incredible that is. This, like, then just a short amount of years, how much growth you've had. Because obviously I'm passionate about this, but like, we don't have enough people telling the truth about what they struggle with in life. And you and I are really, really, I feel like, good at that because God didn't build us. I think he forgot a filter. He made us because we're just like, whatever. But, everybody struggles. And I feel like a lot of what's going on with social media and especially all these coaching spaces and all these things is like people aren't real. Like, hey, and I want to be as real as I possibly can. I mean, I even catch myself sometimes and I'm like, oh, I totally was actually shoved something down that I actually care about and I'd spent this time processing it. And now I'm going to bring it back up because I continue to do inventory and make sure that like I am being true. Because sometimes, we convince ourselves of something that we don't look at it, which is also just a way of dealing with things. But it's really, really something to be proud of when you have those 1% changes. Like you don't have to. Chanel's so good at reminding me this because I'm a perfectionist. Well, I'm not necessarily a perfectionist anymore, but I'm a recovering perfectionist. But I'm a high achiever, and I want to do great things, and I want to be great. I want to be fair, and I want to be good, and so I'm always assessing, like, can I be better, right? And she's like, 1% is a big deal.
We talk about that
a lot of people don't do any percents, and they stay stuck in no growth. If sometimes they even digress into like what worse states of being. And she's really good at being like that 1%.
Yeah,
is so powerful because they compound and they compound and they compound, and then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wow, I've radically changed 10% of the way I deal with something that's been the biggest crutch of my life. That's something to be proud of. Be proud of those little things, that, yeah.
You and I, since we've been married, have changed. I mean, we're not even the same humans when I'm married. But
yeah.
The last year or 18 months or whatever. But that's really, I feel like, if you're listening to us, if you're following us, you know that we're not saying, hey, follow us. We'll show you how to have the most amazing superficial life ever. We're like, we're going all in. Like we're balls deep on life, on business, on everything. And there's a lot of pain and frustration there. There's a lot of joy and happiness there.
Oh,
that will
so beautiful.
This dynamic of being all in, it will force you to open up doors, look in windows that you haven't looked in, see shit that you haven't seen, and really figure out aspects of yourself that you've been wildly uncomfortable with, avoidant to, frustrated with. I know because this is where I am. Like, I am a fighter. Like, I'm just like, let's solve this, rip this thing open. So this idea of, hey, the word comes out and I'm like, I have to literally leave the room. I can't say anything. I can't spike the ball. I'm like, okay, Matt, well, what about this? Can I say some things? No, can't. Like, this is what we're agreeing to. Do we talk now or later, whatever? So that's we've made it that far in our protocol, which is we're going to have a word. And then we know that we literally disconnect and we go and we meditate for 15 minutes.
Yes.
And we haven't gotten to the next step, which is how do we come back and communicate?
It's really funny though, is like you had originally said, well, maybe we just like, we just give herself like a date. And that was like, she's not going to be okay with that because she's already wants to leave anyways.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not leave. Like I'm not trying to divorce my husband, but I'm like, oh, I'll gladly go to the park and sit on the swing and be like, I don't want to deal with all this shit right now. La, la, la. Like it was kind of funny. I was like,
15 minutes. I have to
like 15 minutes. That's not long enough.
And I'm sitting there going, all right, are we done? 5 minutes. Let's go. Let's fucking get back on the game and let's talk about
this. Is what's dope about having a good coach because it was like millisecond. He was like, oh no, it has to be way shorter than that because she's going to be like
checking out.
She'll be in the mall shopping just like.
So we're obviously going to do like a 2.0 on this and fill you guys in on the rest of our protocol. But I want to encourage everybody to really look at two things. Number one, obviously that aspect of being all in. Like, this is not a superficial deal. This isn't something that you just kind of throw in the deal. To me, this is life changing. It truly is healing. It's a healing protocol. It's kind of like I really believe that a majority of people out there want to get better. If you're listening to this, you've not arrived. No one's arrived. You've not at the top of the mountain because there is no top of the mountain. It's a constant journey, right? So I'm going to go against what Don Miguel Ruiz says, and I'm going to assume that you want more, right? If you're listening to this, and this is something that maybe you already have, maybe you're already doing, maybe you can update it, upgrade it, whatever. I'm going to assume that, number one, but number two, like, I also, really truly believe that if you're going to be in a relationship, I whether you're disconnected right now, whether you're just roommates or whatever, if you're going to be with a person, like, make the declaration and the decision to be all in. Like, open up all the scary doors, man. Go balls deep, for lack of better words. Like, you might as well. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be with somebody, if you're going to build a life or a relationship with somebody, why live half-assed? Why live 10%? Why hide half of who you are or hide these things? Like, if you're going to do it, go all in. And this will require you to obtain new skill sets, to check yourself, to learn the ego. I mean, I've grown more in 2.5 years with you than I have in 20 years. Mm-hmm. I've had to check myself, check my ego, figure shit out that I didn't even know existed, right? I've had to go into the deepest, darkest parts of my soul, my mind, my heart that I never really wanted to. I was very much okay being, very superficial and sitting on the sideline. So just know that, like, there are things out there that will intimidate you like this, that will scare you. But, like, I wanted this. Like, that's what I think is really cool, is like, we want to grow. We want to be proactive in these things. We want to navigate this and sort some of these things out. And we're like testing. We're like, this doesn't work. That doesn't work. Let's try this. Let's try that. But both of us, hats off to both of us for wanting to do this, for wanting to set these things.
I'm so proud to be married to a man that will do this. When I was single, I remember, like, the things I wanted the most is I wanted a man that would tell me the truth. Like, because I had dated all these nice guys that were lying or they were completely full of shit. And it's like, I wanted someone who would tell me the truth. That meant I have to be someone that tells the truth. And then when you have two people that are telling the truth, it's really vulnerable, right? And so that's where a lot of this conflict comes from. And I look at, like, my past of when I struggled with being bulimic for most of my life, until my mid-20s. And that was just another way of coping. And I healing that and seeing the rewards that came into my life when I stopped sedating and checking out and, like, not addressing where my pain was coming from. And that was just the way I coped with it. There's a lot of ways people cope with things they are not okay to look at. But I have seen in my own life the power of just what that changed. And so that that's like all I needed to know, that the rest of my life I am on a mission to peel back more layers. So I hope by the time my deathbed comes, like I'm truly evolved into the best version of myself. And I love the fact that I'm married to a man that literally wants to do exactly the same thing, because it's like I can't, every day we're better and greater and more connected. And it's just like, it becomes its own intoxicating obsession to just like,
I want more.
I want more. And
deeper,
so
more love, more connection, more passion, more rawness.
So this all an experience, couples experience that we have just, we're so, I mean, so much just that we're just about to watch. Like we're taking all of these tools and all of these things we've learned, and it's just like, we just want to share that because it matters. It means so much to us, genuinely means so much to us.
Yeah. Well, I want to say one thing. I want to correct you on one thing, but when you said, hopefully by the time I'm on my deathbed, I've evolved, like you've evolved right here, right now to the best version of yourself. And just remember that, like, not just you, but everybody listening, like right here, right now, you are the best version of yourself. Is there a better version? Absolutely. Is there a bigger version? Absolutely. We're going to constantly be evolving.
Oh, that's what I meant.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just saying the way you like,
for sure.
This is something I'm very much a believer in, is like, we're everything that's brought us to this point is perfect. It's perfect knowledge. It's perfect wisdom. It's perfect experience. Like you touch the hot stove, you burn your hand. You have a perfect knowledge. And you touch that hot stove again, it's going to burn your hand, right? That's like, it's where we are. Mm-hmm. But I encourage people to also be hungry. Like we're hungry for more. We're so, for lack of better words, naked, like it with life right now, saying like, we want it all. Like we're willing to open up everything, just get totally naked and say, this is what we know. This is what we don't know. Show us. Where are the people? Where are the signs? Where's the insight? Where's the wisdom? Where's the knowledge? Like we're actively seeking that out, which is why I think this whole protocol thing is cool, because I've never done anything like this. We've had like, okay, take your day. Don't argue when you're mad. Don't go to bed. Blah, blah, blah. You hear all of these things, but like, this is a dope out tool.
Go to bed. Yeah, that's Jordan Peterson's wife. She said that too. She'll go to bed mad, and I just look at her like, oh, don't you care to talk? No.
Yeah, I'm just going to bed.
I'm okay to go to bed, man.
But this, we'll keep sharing with you guys as we figure this all out. But as of right now, we've got like the beginning stages of this protocol, and I'm excited to like test this and work this and do this and ultimately heal some of that reality. Because I saw last night, like is me knowing myself, knowing the fire, knowing the over under the wave and the island kind of a deal, like. To me, being able to disconnect from a situation that I want to fire into and knowing that I don't need to, or that we both go to a place where we learn the lesson and we don't need to prove anything, I think that's something that will be very, very empowering for both of us, because we both want that. Both want to make sure that the other person knows exactly what the fuck is going on, exactly where we are. We want to spike the ball, make sure that we're validated, whatever. And I have this vision of being able to be in a place where I didn't need to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like the lesson is learned, the conversation is had, and you move without that energy. And to me, that's like that's a very empowering place to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And to me, like it's like skipping the step of steps that are involved in the proving part, and just being able to see your partner and actually where they're at and see them embrace, see them in the benefit of the doubt. Not worst, think the worst, right? Because our nervous systems, when they're in that position, have a tendency to assume the worst, right? And that's that. If you can see that, and you learn to trust that, and that you're safe in that, then I feel like you're less likely to have to prove anything.
Yeah,
because it already exists.
And that's like the gangster part. It's like the plane. You know, you pull out the procedure. This engine's on fire. What do? Push these buttons, boom, it's out. Problem solved. Carry on. You know what I mean? Land the plane, do your deal, continue on with the rest of the mission. That's the kind of thought that I've got with this. It's like with what we're trying to build and wanting to build and proactively moving towards, it's like we don't want that space. We don't need that space. There's nothing good that comes from that space. It's like the quicker you can get in and out of that space, really get in and out of that space without like carrying that shit, which is what I acknowledge and do. I just can imagine how much bigger everything would be, how much simpler everything would be, but really be there. Like without, you say we're good, but we need to talk about this more. The thing from last week, you know what I'm saying? You get past that shit, man.
However, one thing though is in that book, which I think it's only on Audible, but it's a great book, is it says the hair. So there's a tortoise and a hare. There's all these like analogies. Basically, I'm a tortoise and you're a hare. And it comes to this, right? Right?
Sure.
It's like, it says that the hare can slow down, but the tortoise can't speed up. And so one of those things, if you find yourself to be the like more heightened aggressor, I'm not saying aggressors like they're worse, because they're not, it's all not good necessarily, right? But knowing that like, because sometimes, and Jordan Peterson talked about this too, is like a woman, and we're about to drop this clip because it's brilliant. A woman has to talk in circles sometimes to find out even what she's actually upset about. He's like,
really
she's like, and women, we have to verbally process sometimes too. And so it's like, if we don't have, and I'm not saying women are tortoise, I just have to be more tortoise. And it's like, I have to process and I have to feel it. I have to think about it. Sometimes it's horribly annoying to you because you're just like, let's like Mr. Hare, like, let's have it. But you're also more, like when we took that test, you're more,
Listen.
Awesome. No, what wasn't the word? Is it? It's not intellectual.
I'm very exuberant.
What was the other word? It's basically like what I can't do right now in this moment is like, I'm not rapid fire thoughts. I like more like, I want to sit with that. I want to process it. I want to feel it. And you're really good at fast articulation of like thoughts and processes, which is like why you're a great debater. You're a great coach. Like you can get on stage and you can literally talk about anything you can just spit it. And I am not that. I'm a slower processor. So that's another thing that all these things you can just put in your little notebook of things.
Yeah. So, moral of the story, the protocol. Give it a shot. Give it a whirl. We'll keep you guys posted on what we're doing, but I'm really, really, really excited about this. I know it sounds kind of elementary and maybe a little cheesy to some people, but like knowing that you have these kinds of tools, these types of
simple tools,
strategies
like
to get what you want. I mean, man, it's game. So anyways, okay. Final thought. We haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but we've referenced the All In. We've talked about All In, and Sax and I have felt really called and compelled to start sharing more on the relationships we've built, kind of an entire experience from retreats to hopefully mentoring and coaching and stuff like that. So if you guys are interested, we have set up a website, SeanandSax.com. It's just SeanandSax.com. Go drop your name and your email in there, and we will be in the beginning of July. Why the hell did I say July? October, same thing. We're going to start sending out some information on what we're doing and what we're launching and when things are coming. So we've got some retreats coming and a really cool experience. This is something we felt really called to do for a while, since we got married. And we just knew that like we needed to evolve and really get us grounded and going to be able to have this conversation. And it's been on our mind and in our heart, like major. It's really all we've been talking about for the last probably 6 months. So we're excited. Q4, we're launching All In with Sean Sax. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really fun.
We'll definitely put the link in this description.
Yeah, we'll put the link in, but just go to Sean Sax if you want to get on the email list, and we will send you guys details and information. It's not for singles. It's going to be for couples, married folks. So lots of people have said, you should need to help all of us singles. I'm like, I'm
in the den.
Yeah, I'm past all that. Like, I'm not single anymore. So just copy what I did to get smoking hot chick, and it'll be fine. Anyways, SeanandSax.com. Go drop your info in there. And if you guys got some nuggets from this, please share it. Please like it. Please comment. And as always, we're super grateful and we love you.
Love you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye now.